the whole year in itself had kind of, I was working hard and having success. It was just really nice to get a victory because that just did wonders for me as far as allowing me to play in the majors, the other majors that year, to play in the playoffs and be a full member of the tour. But it wasn't necessarily the only validation. I had been really pleased with the way the year had been going prior to coming in here as well. I'd had a lot of success in earning my way onto temporary status, and this just put a nice exclamation point on it.
Well, you've done so well the first time you've played all of these tour golf courses. What's your secret to doing that?
Well, that's nothing new. I mean, in junior golf, I went to courses I'd never seen. And then very rarely did I ever go back to the same course twice. I mean, there were a few events in junior golf, but then college, I was only there for a year and a half, and I only went back to one place twice, and that was Isleworth. It's the only tournament that I went back to twice. And so coming out on tour, it's nothing new that every course was a course that I hadn't seen. So I was learning to adjust and just going through the same stuff that I'd gone through the years before. Nothing really changed. It's not like I had been so used to playing all the same courses and I come out to a completely new environment. That's how it always was.
Okay. You played Conway Farms last year in the BMW, and it's going to be held again next year at that course. What did you think of that course, and what do you think of the Chicago fans?
I like it. Yeah, no, it's awesome. Geez, golf in Chicago. Chicago's got to be one of the most incredible cities in the world for golf. Conway being one of many great courses there. I've played a few other around there, but Conway was a cool experience last year for the BMW. I played pretty well. I think I finished 13th or so, 15th. Had it going a little bit. I didn't think there was a 59 out there, but apparently Jim Furyk did. It's difficult, it's challenging, but it's fair. And I really enjoyed it. There's a whole mix of shots you have to hit off the tee, from 3-iron to driver and working draws, fades, and you got to be on your game there.
And the Chicago fans, what do you think of them?
Oh, this is incredible. I mean, you go to any large city and you're going to have a lot of golf fans, but they really love their golf in Chicago. And you have the giant city, but at the same time, you still have kind of the Midwestern feel of how nice everybody is and how appreciative they are and kind of respectful on the course.
Do you think your game sets up better to win at Augusta or to win a U.S. Open?
I don't know. I never really knew. I've played in 2 U.S. Opens now, and that was my first time at the Masters. I would say between the 4, it'd be those 2. Between the 4, I do like the British Open. I like playing in the wind and fighting the ball low. But yeah, man, Augusta, I love it. The U.S. Open venues are obviously all cool. U.S. Open, 2 out of the next 3 years are going to venues that I've played before in U.S. Amateurs. So that'll be nice to have a little experience on those. But I don't know if there's either one's more suited for my game.
Is your ball striking where you want it now, or is that something?
Right now, at this moment, I think that it's right where it needs to be heading into next week. It's been improving a little bit. The players, I struck the ball extremely well, and then struggled a little at the Byron, and Colonial started to climb back up. And I was working on some things where I knew I wasn't going to have it all, Colonial and Memorial. I knew I wasn't going to have certain shots, which is tough for me to accept. But it's part of what my instructor, Cameron, and I were thinking about when preparing to peak for the U.S. Open. So we're just taking the game plan we had for Augusta, knowing that maybe the couple tournaments before you don't have your best stuff. I missed the cut in Houston right before Augusta. I just wasn't going to have my best stuff necessarily that week. I could still putt well and win the golf tournament. But it all peaked at Augusta, and hopefully it all peaks here at the U.S. Open. Ultimately, I think looking forward, obviously I'd like to win a lot of golf tournaments and win a lot of majors, but I'd like to also help inspire, draw a lot of people to the game of golf, and I'm not going to do that by sitting in my hotel room all night.
You talked about wanting to be number 1, wanting to. How deep does that go? You have
very.
Tiger had the Nicklaus Pictures on the wall.
Yeah.
Do you keep those numbers in your head? I mean, is that how deep you know that?
Well, I understand a little bit how the system works now, and I understand what I'm going to need to do. it would help to take advantage the rest of this year because I still don't have a divisor. It goes every 2 years because once next year hits, my good tournaments from 2013 start coming off, and I need to play as good or better. In that sense, it's tough, but I've gotten myself into a position early where it's possible. But from here, it's just, you know, I've gone what some would consider a huge notch up. The next notch is, you know, 10 times higher. So that comes with, you know, having to win major championships, plural, most likely. And that's how Rory did it. And, you know, Adam's obviously done it right now and has a chance to put a statement on it. And I'm going to try not to let him.